here's an update on the Nova. I installed the two inner fenders that I jam painted. And now we get to see what the engine looks like in the engine bay, with it pretty much 95% complete as far as the engine bay. What I still need to do is attach the heater hoses that goes here, and I'm going to get the clips that goes right there that are original to the big block Novas and Camaros. Basically, I'm going to take the heater hoses and run them along straight along here, and then I get to curve them to their respective locations. So I need to get rid of this. That was just there as a temporary setup. I also need to get the rubber shield covers that cover the upper A-arms, and I need to do that for both sides. And you'll also see that I got my power steering pump pulley, and as you can see, it routes it to the second correct area. The original pulley for some reason sent it to this area right here. And what I did was, I took the belts and I basically bought a belt long enough to cover all of the pulleys. So that belt goes to the crankshaft as well as this one. So that in the event that, for example, this was to break, though I won't have my battery being charged because this will stop operating, I won't have the worries that my radiator fan and water pump is not operating, because I still have a belt attached to the water pump and the crank pulley. So that's just for safety. And those are the belts that I wanted to get. So there's the engine bay. I now have fluid in the master cylinder, and the brakes are now installed properly with everything. And to bleed them, since this is an entirely new system, as I replaced everything, I used a pneumatic brake fluid bleeder. And basically you attach it to your compressor. So you basically put on a nozzle right here and attach the compressor hose to it. You press the trigger and it starts to send off a vacuum to the area that's attached to the bleeder screw, and pretty much sucks air and fluid and puts it into that bottle. It made my job a little bit easier because I had to suck all that fluid from the master cylinder into every line. And then of course I finished it off with the standard, just get a bottle, and using the bleeder thing here, just get a bottle and just do it manually. Pump the brakes and get the fluid and bubbles out of the calipers. So now here's the brakes, and these are the fronts, and you can see the way it's set up. Now the fronts are from a 1969 Chevy Nova, and the entire brake kit is from Right Stuff Detailing, and everything was pretty good on the kit. So everything went in, and I like the way it installed, detailed instructions, everything was pretty good. So those were the fronts. Let's go to the backs. The backs, disc brakes as well, because I hate drum brakes. I hate working on them. Those springs are really hard to move, and disc brakes for me are just a lot easier and more efficient. So the rears for this kit came from a 1979 Cadillac Eldorado, and these have self-adjusting emergency brakes, and the cable runs along the bottom and gets attached to the stock location. And these brakes for the Chevy Nova are staggered brakes, which means that the caliper mounts opposite the shock. And as you can see, there's the other side. The shock's in front of the axle on the passenger side, which makes the caliper attached to the rear. And on the driver's side, the shock is attached to the rear of the differential, which makes the caliper attached to the front. So I cleaned up the rear axle, painted it with satin black, and the inner fenders were done with epoxy. Now with the kit, I ordered some shorter lines so that I can attach this tab that came with the kit. You basically have to weld it on, and I know the welds don't look that great, but no one's ever going to see it. But basically, you weld the tab onto the axle, and the flex hose gets attached to the hard line where the tab is. So let's check out the other side. Now for the other side, you can see that it's towards the back, and there's the emergency brake line, and again it runs to the stock bracket holder. And I also did the inner fender with epoxy, and for the entire bottom I recoated it with rubberized undercoating so it looks nice and clean. So there's the update on the Nova, and now you can see the Nova with the panels. So I got them to be aligned. It was definitely work to align these panels. You can see there's the gap for the door and the fender, and then there's the gap for the door and the quarter panel. So I basically just measured, and when I was installing the shims to get the alignment of the panel, I just basically tried to duplicate the same measurement. And you can see that it looks really straight. I like the way it came out. And yeah, it's gonna look good when I get that coating of paint. Still need to get the windshields, I need to get the hood, but all that will come, and that's when I will be able to give it that coating of paint to finish it off. So hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching.